I mean, I remember the phone conversation. I called him and he was like, "Easy, give me good news." And I was like, oh my God. All right, good morning again. Yeah, it always trips me out. We got both of these guys 40 years apart, but you know, I work on them all the same. I actually was not gonna film today, this morning, tonight, whichever one, but I think I have this guy figured out. So yeah, I felt good enough to film the restoration car I've been talking about this whole time. All right, so 1985 Toyota Corolla GTS hatchback. Unfinished father-son project. This is the same owner as that orange N2 Starlet that I filmed early last year, I think. And yeah, I could see why they didn't finish. Initially, the customer contacted me just to put in an engine, right? And then I saw this thing with no interior, no glass. Yeah, once I saw the car, I was like, oh man, what did I get myself into? So the first thing that got dropped off was actually the engine. I got a dirty old engine and trans by itself to do a compression leak down inspection before we decide to plug it in. And he was told that it was running and it was a good engine. I mean, I remember the phone conversation. I called him and he was like, "Easy, give me good news." And I was like, oh my God. We built this guy in-house, full build down to the block. New Toyota piston rings, ARP hardware throughout. Sorry I didn't film or take enough pictures. Yeah, king bearings throughout, OEM Toyota gasket kit, all this stuff. Thank you so much to Battle Garage. So yeah, obviously I got the engine in the car. So yeah, why don't we take a look? All right, yeah, some of the stuff you guys can obviously see is from the previous owner. That's kind of gross, but once we get this running, we're gonna clean this up. You know, intake, radiator, get all this looking nice. This thing has definitely sat for a long time. Solid stuff was coming out of the clutch line. When I put the trans in and tried to put the slave cylinder on, it actually blew up on me and made a mess. So yeah, definitely been sitting for a long time. Yeah, US big port 7 rib. Not anything particularly special, but rightfully so. The customer just wants like a cool street restoration, you know, cruiser. Nothing wrong with that, right? So basically just a refresh rather than like a performance rebuild on this. So doing the measurements, we were able to keep the factory piston size, just needed a hone from the machine shop. But yeah, again, new rings, new bearings, polished crank. When I did the leak down test, a bunch of valves leaked on the head too. So the head also got sent out to the machine shop for to let them work their magic. Yeah, some other stuff worth noting. 20 valve oil pumps, always a good upgrade. Yeah, new water pump from ASIN. These are always fun, right? How many little kids and monkeys always mess with these cars? So some stuff. The throttle stop was missing. The damper right here was misadjusted. This is obviously not an AE86 cable because it's 10 miles too long. The dampener on this is important. You can talk to Chris Van because his dampener wasn't adjusted correctly. It actually broke the rod for the throttle body inside, and he actually sucked up a screw into the intake. So what this is supposed to do, if you look right there, so if you heard that last one, this damper right here is actually supposed to dampen the force so that when this guy slams shut, it doesn't slam and put force on this throttle shaft. This damper will actually dampen some of the force. So, and then there's a spec in the factory service manual for both the throttle stop and this guy. So yeah, pay attention. So yeah, as you can see, this was at the body shop. Got a full respray. We're gonna use Amsoil break-in oil for this. I have a specific break-in process based off of the factory TRD break-in. Hopefully we'll get to film that and I'll get to share it. Before we take a look under the car, why don't we show you what I've been working on for the past 7 to 12, so 5 hours of diagnosis on this thing. Which sucks because the rest of the team is actually go-karting. So yeah, yeah, stayed and But that's typical me, right? I want to stay till the job is finished or till I have it figured out. So okay, lots of problems with this guy. Crank no start. I got spark and quick and dirty. If you pull a wire, a spark plug wire, shove a screwdriver in it and put it next to something, like that's not supposed to be painted, but and then tell someone to turn the key, you should be able to see the arc off of the screwdriver onto here. So I put a test light on the injector connectors. So it's 2-pin, these are hot at all times, and then the computer will actually ground one side, and so that one side you'll see it flash. So no injector signal, and then also no fuel pressure. So you know, exactly as the factory service manual states, if you grab the return hose and squeeze it, yeah, sure enough, there's no pressure in there. So yeah, one more time. Crank no start. I have spark. I do not have an injector signal, and I do not have fuel pressure. So hooray, right? And then one more fun thing. Intermittently, so when you turn key on, almost every car does a bulb check. All the bulbs will illuminate, and if there's nothing wrong, they'll turn off. Intermittently, I would not get my check engine light. And after lots and lots of digging, I found this forum thread about how if your check engine light doesn't illuminate, it's probably 2 fuses that aren't getting power. Every car, since the dawn of time that I've worked on, every time it comes from a body shop, there's a problem because the body shop monkeyed with it. So sure enough, yeah, the EFI fuse in the fuse box, which is painted this disgusting color. EFI fuse should be one of these. Intermittently, I would not get power to the fuse, and so long story short, I pulled this up and I noticed one connector was like halfway in, halfway out. So after disconnecting all the connectors out of this fuse box, cleaning all the connections out, and then make sure they firmly snapped into place, I finally got my check engine light on with key on. But that's not all, Billy Mays, because once I jumped the service connector, I got code 6. Hooray, right? Alright, so code 6. So this code 6 description is actually for another classic Toyota, but the trouble tree is the same minus where the pinouts are. So yeah, basically it's measure the resistances at the distributor, and you want 3 lines, G plus, G minus, and then NE. And then if these check out on the distributor, we're gonna go to the PCM and see if we get those same resistance values. If we don't get those same resistance values, there's a break in the harness between the distributor and the PCM. So what did I find? So I think this is, in the many code 6s I've done, this is the first one that was actually conclusive. So G plus, G minus, I think I got 160 and change ohms. NE and G minus, there was no continuity. I got 0, so that means there's an internal open between the signal generator. So yeah, sure enough, we're gonna have to tell the customer to get authorization to put a distributor in this guy. To double check, I took off all this and double checked the wires, because you know, what if this wire was broken and I would have replaced the distributor for no good reason. And then same thing, I took off the cap to look inside, probe around. If I can just repair a wire, I'd rather do that than have to tell the customer to replace this distributor. So where are we at? Crank, no start, code 6. Code 6, I think I figured out I need an authorization for that distributor, and no fuel pressure. So where are we at? No fuel pressure and no injector signal. All right, so Zenki car, right next to the MAF. 2-pin, if you jump the 2-pin, this should run the fuel pump all the time. So after I fixed all of this stuff, finally, I could jump this. I could hear the circuit open relay under there click. And then sure enough, body side for the fuel pump, I got battery voltage. So what does that mean? Our circuit from out there to here is good. My fuel pump's getting the signal that it needs. And there's continuity in this circuit. I don't have like a broken wire somewhere here or like a bad circuit open relay. Rewind a little bit. When I jumped that connector, I did not hear the fuel pump running. An old school trick, if you kick the fuel tank, sometimes it'll jar the fuel pump enough to let it run again, because sometimes the fuel pump gets stuck. That did not happen for us. I ended up unplugging this, putting battery voltage straight to this, and sure enough, the fuel pump does not run. So that 100% means that the fuel pump's bad in this guy. So again, gotta call the customer for authorization, put a fuel pump in here. I'm pretty confident the code 6, that distributor is my no injector signal, because the kind of how this system works, or not kind of, exactly how this system works. The distributor will give a signal to the igniter. The igniter converts a signal out back to the injectors for the injectors to fire. Why is this important? I've had a car in the past with a code 6 and a code 11. Can't remember what code 11 is right now, but ended up we replaced the distributor, and that fixed some of the drivability issues, and it cleared the code 6 and code 11, but I still intermittently got no injector signal, and it ended up because the igniter was bad, because in one way to think about it, the igniter converts what this guy's got to say and outputs what the signal that the injectors need to fire. Cool, so that was extremely long-winded, and then now you guys know why I've been here for the past 5 hours fixing 5 different issues for crank no start. So why don't we take a look under the car? All right, yeah, I almost forgot there's a Beams engine right back there in the corner too, and it just reminded me. I know you guys comment the ridiculous hours I work, but I would say the part I hate most about doing this is feeling guilty about customer stuff. Like, I had to deliver some really bad news about that Beams engine that customer just bought. All right, cylinder 4, just about 10% leak. We actually coming from the, okay, looks like the intake valves are not sealing and they're leaking on this guy. And yeah, I think the guilt is the worst, right? Sometimes stuff is like, they buy something used thinking it's good, like exactly like that engine too, right? Someone tells them it's good, they want it checked out, you gotta tell them that it's actually not even salvageable. And yeah, I would say the guilt, even though it's not necessarily your fault, you definitely feel the burden of the guilt, and that's probably the part I hate the most. But that's the price you pay, right? So enough of this sob story. Let's go take a look at this car. So yeah, pretty cool, brand new oil pan. We powder coated and painted everything. Powder coat, powder coat, powder coat. Unfortunately, I think someone told the owner this was a TRD header. I can almost guarantee this is an OBX because of how close this thing is to the floor. And then, the obvious one is up there. The EGR is kind of crooked. Yeah, unfortunately, I can almost guarantee this is an OBX. There's the new slave, because the old one blew up on me. It's gonna be tough to see, but this car was missing a lot too, like that one-way valve, that three-way connector, all the little nickel and dime stuff when you do something like this, right? All the hose clamps, all the nuts and bolts that were missing. Yeah, check out that powder coated water pipe. We painted the block with this paint called Motor Coater, which is probably my new favorite product. Turned out really nice. Put new input and output seals on this transmission. Fidanza lightweight flywheel, Exetti stage 1 clutch, ARP flywheel bolts, and then just one more headache. The drive shaft in this car that I got was absolutely unusable, rusty piece of junk, so we made a brand new one. Fuel tank, gotta drop you next week, I bet. Oh, what is this body shop tape doing here? Get out of here. All right, if you guys are wondering what this one's here for, actually not that much, just a corner balance alignment. But I actually need to be taking in more of this type of work, since this bread and butter is actually what really pays the bills. This kind of stuff I really love to do. I'm absolutely passionate about, but the amount of stress, anxiety, and guilt that I get from doing big Corolla projects like this is probably gonna shorten my lifespan. So, and the unfortunate reality is that the income isn't as good as like quick short-term stuff like this, but regardless, I'm still here, I'm still doing it, so until it kills me, I guess. So yeah, thank you guys again for watching. Thank you for all the support. Remember to like and subscribe. If you want to see more, if you'd like me to do the podcast again, I got a Patreon down below. Also pick up some merch. If you guys have merch ideas, leave a comment below. I'm trying to get the store running again with new stuff. I think I got some windshield banners on the way. But yeah, thank you guys again. Take care. See you next time.